Hello, everybody. This is a little tutorial about how to do really kind of most of the math section of this project. Okay, so uh, you should watch maybe this video after you have your 12 diagonal lines drawn on the coordinate plane, making whatever you made, really want to make, whatever it is. Like it's a cactus, flower, star, Houston Astros logo, LA Dodgers logo. I don't know. You made it. All right. So after you make it, then we got to deal with this. Oh boy, all this stuff. So I'm going to kind of demonstrate what to do. All right, let's say you've named your, your coordinates A, B, C, and D. Well, okay, so here it's like, don't worry about the way it's written here. Like, let's say this line, this segment here from C to D is your line A. Okay, so I know it might be confusing what I'm saying, but imagine that we're dealing with line A. All right, so imagine you drew a nice big capital A instead of the C and D. Imagine this segment or this line right here is part of your drawing. Okay, so I'm going to do all the math that you have to do for this project with this line right here. Okay, this diagonal line. All right, just to kind of demonstrate how to do all of it. Okay, so first up, I need to identify the coordinates of where these are. So it looks like my coordinates are -8, comma 8, and then it's -5, comma 4. Okay, so these are the two coordinates that where you see the C and the D are. Those are the two coordinates that make up this diagonal line right here. And so these two coordinates are what you would write in this section. Okay, so like in this section, the X and Y, you would write this. Okay, but these are mine, like whatever you write in these sections depends on what you drew. Okay, so those are the coordinates. All right, next up would be slope. I got to get slope with these two coordinates. So we've practiced slope a lot in this class, but let's do it again. So 8 minus 4, and if you do Control A, it highlights that, and I press the slash, it makes division. And then below that, -8 minus -5, I get about -4/3. Okay, so this actually turns into, you can write that as the slope. Like you can write, that's the slope. Or another way to do it would be -4/3. 4/3. And notice, like, so if you wrote decimals, don't write a bunch of threes, okay? You can either just write like -1.3, and that'd be fine for this. You don't have to write a bunch of decimals. Fractions are better. So for me, I'd write -4/3 right here. Next up is x is y and x intercepts. Okay, so let's talk about that. So that's kind of the new weird thing about this. Okay, oops, I don't need to. Okay, so in class, I would explain there's two ways to do it. One is if you look at the absolute last page, here's like written directions on how to solve for x and y intercepts using algebra, which I will explain. But instead of doing algebra, get a ruler. And with a ruler, if I were to, imagine what I'm saying. Imagine you get a ruler or a straight edge being like a pen or a pencil or a book or something that's straight, and you line it up with line CD. You line up with line CD, and what you do is you want to see where, if I keep making this line go, like this line is going to continually go this way. Sorry, my cursor is like twitching and stuff. It's just the computer. But if I were to like imagine where this would cross, I believe it crosses here at -2. Pretty close to it. So that means this would have an x-intercept at -2. And if I keep going, I think it means my y-intercept would be about -3. Pretty sure, because like, so imagine if you like kind of do a straight edge and you kind of just line it up with this line. If you just kind of see when it crosses the x-axis, that would be an x-intercept of -2. And then if you keep lining it up, it should show you it would have a y-intercept of -3. Okay, so that's the not algebra way to do it. That's just like you just get a ruler or something, you just kind of line up the line, you just kind of see when it crosses the x-axis and when it crosses the y-axis, and that works. That's one way to do it. Or we can do some, well, you can do some algebra. Okay, here's what I mean by the algebra. Okay. So I'm going to do what it says here for those two coordinates I got. And those two coordinates I got, it was -8, 8, and what was it? -5, 4. Okay. Okay, so -5, 4. Okay. So let's say I want the x-intercept. So let's do the y-intercept part because that you kind of need that. So if you notice how the x-intercept is, you need the y-intercept to do it correctly, which we don't have. So let's do the y-intercept first. So doing the y-intercept part, which I've actually taught you in class in previous lessons on how to do this. All right, so I got the slope. The slope was -4/3, and it was x plus b, because we don't know what b is. We're going to solve for it. All right, so step one is get slope in one coordinate. All right, so I'm going to plug in the slope. I already plugged in the slope. Now I'm going to plug in one of the coordinates into that. So that means I'm going to plug in, let's plug in the bottom one. So instead of 4, instead of y, it becomes 4, because that says 4. -4/3, and then instead of y, it's -5 plus b. Okay, so our answer is going to have fractions or decimals. That's going to happen quite often with this math. It's going to happen. All right, so 4 equals, all right, -4/3 times -5 is positive 20/3 plus b. Now, in order to accurately like subtract 4 minus 20/3, I want to make 4 into thirds. So that's actually like 12/3 is 4. That is the same thing as 4 is. And then I would subtract 20/3 on both sides. It actually gives you -8/3. So that's pretty close. I mean, I wasn't exactly right with the ruler. That might have been a little off. So that means actually it has a y-intercept of -8/3. The one I just made up, which is quite possible. Whoa. Ho-ho. I didn't mean to do that. Yeah. Okay, so that would mean, oh God, where am I doing? I would write here -8/3 and the negative y-intercept part. All right, x-intercept, a little harder. So now that I have so that basically means the equation for that line I just randomly found off the internet is -8/3. That's actually what it is. And if I want to get the x-intercept would be the directions here above is, all right, I got to find the slope and y-intercept. So I got it. There it is. I plugged that into here. I did. I replaced y with 0. So that means now I have to, so step 3 says replace y with 0. So I'm replacing y with 0. I get that. And scroll up. All right, now I gotta solve for x, and like whatever x is the answer. So I would add 8/3 to both sides. That gives me -4/3 x like this. All right, so next up, you would divide both sides by -4/3. All right, what happens when I do 8/3? And I would be dividing that. Notice that creates another division symbol by -4/3. I get -2. So that's the x-intercept. My x-intercept was right when I did the ruler. Notice I get the exact same answer as -2. So that would be my x-intercept is -2. And so that means right here, I would write -2. Now, notice I already got slope-intercept form. Like now that I have y-intercept, I got slope-intercept form. I already got that because I got the slope. I got the y-intercept. So for that, it was this. So like y equals -4/3 x minus 8/3. That's what I'd write here. Point slope form isn't bad either. Like that's not too bad. Let me make this go like over here. Sorry, I'm having technical difficulties. Why is it not scrolling over? All right, so let's say I want to do point slope form. So point slope form would be I use the exact same slope, and then which is -4/3, and I use one of those coordinates. So like basically, there's many ways to write point slope form for this, but here's what I would do. All right, you write y minus. Okay, so back to the coordinates. One of them was like -8, 8, right? So y minus 8, because the y value is 8, equals, I still got the same slope of -4/3. I do parentheses, and then, all right, it's like x minus -8, but instead of minus -8, I just write +8. And that would be my point slope form. And then the last one is standard form. Okay, so standard form means the x and y is on the same side of the equal sign. So all you have to do for standard form is you see your slope-intercept form. You want to make the x thing, you want to make this x thing go on the same side as the equal sign. So how do you get rid of -4/3 x? You would add 4/3 x to both sides, and then it creates 4/3 x plus y equals -8/3, which is one way to write standard form. It's not accurately great. That's good, but more traditionally is that these have to be whole numbers. So if you multiply everything times 3, this would be more accurately standard form for that. And that's all I'm asking you to do. I know that was a lot of math, but hey, welcome to Algebra 2. So that is what I did, one line. Okay, so I did all the math of this line right here. Okay, so you have to do that for, well, 12 lines. All right, that is it. I hope this was helpful. Have a good day.